Welcome back to the channel, where we explore the most pressing issues shaping UK politics today. In this episode, we're tackling a controversial topic that has sparked outrage across the political spectrum: Labour MPs lining up to oppose the government's proposed disability cuts. These reforms have ignited fierce debate in Parliament among advocacy groups and across social media. So, what's really going on here? Let's break it down. Let's start with the basics. Earlier this month, Liz Kendall, Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, unveiled Labour's Pathways to Work Green Paper, a plan that aims to cut £5 billion from disability benefits by 2030. The government says these cuts are necessary to address rising welfare costs and create a system that encourages employment. But here's the catch. These cuts target personal independence payments, PIP, and universal credit for disabled individuals and those with long-term health conditions, groups already struggling with poverty and limited access to resources. The reforms include raising PIP eligibility thresholds. This means fewer people will qualify for financial support for additional living costs associated with their disabilities. 2. Universal credit reforms. Claimants with health conditions will face stricter work search requirements, while rates for those deemed unable to work will be reduced. 3. Abolishing the Work Capability Assessment, WCA. By 2028, the government plans to replace the WCA with a single PIP assessment focused on daily living impacts rather than work capacity. Projected savings. The government aims to save £5 billion annually by implementing these measures. While these changes are framed as necessary reforms, critics argue they could push millions of disabled individuals into poverty and worsen health outcomes. Now, here's where things get interesting. Labour MPs, yes, members of the governing party, are openly rebelling against these proposals. Over 80 Labour MPs have voiced their opposition, accusing their own government of betraying its core values of social justice and compassion. During a fiery debate in Parliament last week, Richard Bergen MP didn't hold back. He called the cuts immoral and a betrayal of disabled people who trusted Labour to protect them.
Making cuts instead of taxing wealth is a political choice, and taking away the personal independence payments from so many disabled people is an especially cruel choice. A disabled person who can't cut up their own food without assistance, and can't go to the toilet without assistance, and can't wash themselves without assistance will lose their personal independence payment. So hasn't the government on this taking the easy option of cutting support for disabled people, rather than the braver option, which would be to tax the wealthiest through a wealth tax?
Bergen went on to demand alternative solutions, such as introducing a wealth tax on the richest individuals rather than targeting vulnerable groups. And it's not just Bergen. Several high-profile Labour MPs have expressed concerns about how these reforms could alienate voters who rely on disability benefits, and how they contradict Labour's traditional commitment to supporting marginalised communities. Even moderate MPs are uneasy. One MP reportedly shared in a private WhatsApp group that these cuts could undo years of progress in rebuilding trust with voters after years of austerity under Conservative governments. The backlash isn't limited to Parliament. Disability charities and advocacy groups have been vocal in their condemnation of these proposed cuts. James Taylor from Scope described them as the largest cuts to disability benefits in history, warning that nearly half of all families living in poverty have a disabled member, and these reforms could make things worse. Mie Earhart from Disability Rights UK criticised the government's narrative, arguing that these changes aren't about helping disabled people find work, but are instead about implementing harsh budgetary cuts under the guise of reform. Other organisations have pointed out that reducing PIP payments will leave many struggling to cover basic living costs associated with their disabilities. Things like mobility aids, mental health support, or transportation for medical appointments. So, how is the government defending these reforms? Liz Kendall argues that they're necessary for fixing what she calls a broken system. She claims current welfare policies trap too many people on benefits without providing real pathways back into employment. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has echoed this sentiment during recent public appearances. He stated he would be ruthless in cutting benefits if needed to balance government spending, a stance that has drawn criticism even from within his own party. The government insists that these changes are part of a broader strategy aimed at modernizing welfare while ensuring fiscal responsibility. But here's the question many are asking. Is targeting disabled individuals really an ethical way to achieve budgetary savings? Reaction has been overwhelmingly negative. Social media platforms are flooded with posts from disability activists calling out Labour for abandoning its commitment to social justice. Hashtags like Stop Disability Cuts and Labour Betrayal have been trending on Twitter for days. Protests are being organised across major cities next week, with campaigners demanding that the government reverse its decision on these cuts. Advocacy groups are planning marches in London, Manchester, and Birmingham. So if you're passionate about this issue, keep an eye out for ways to get involved. Even economists are skeptical about whether these cuts will achieve their intended fiscal goals. BBC Economics editor Faisal Islam recently noted that while £5 billion in savings sounds significant on paper, it pales in comparison to broader economic challenges like inflation and NHS funding shortages. This controversy raises bigger questions about Labour's identity as a party and its ability to navigate tough decisions while staying true to its values. Historically, Labour has been seen as the party of fairness and compassion, the party that protects society's most vulnerable members. But now, critics argue that Labour risks alienating its base by adopting policies reminiscent of conservative austerity measures from previous years. If Labour MPs themselves are rebelling against these proposals, what does this mean for Starmer's leadership? And let's not forget, there's an election looming on the horizon. If public outrage over these disability cuts continues to grow, it could seriously impact Labour's chances at retaining power in key constituencies, especially those where disability benefits play a crucial role in supporting local communities. As we wrap up today's discussion, it's clear that this issue is far from resolved. The proposed disability cuts have sparked one of the most significant political debates we've seen this year, and they've exposed deep divisions within Labour itself. So what happens next? Will public pressure force the government to reconsider its approach? Will Labour MPs continue their rebellion? Or will Starmer double down on his commitment to fiscal responsibility, even at the cost of alienating his own party? These are questions we'll be watching closely as this story develops. Now it's your turn. What do you think about these proposed disability cuts? Are they necessary reforms aimed at modernizing welfare, or an attack on those who need help the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more updates on UK politics. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.